now in a final do-or-die match in this best-of-3 against FlyQuest. Winner goes to quarters.
And honestly, it's a really exciting time to be an LCS fan because TL got close against T1 twice this year. Now we have FlyQuest pushing HLE to the limit. You know, this is something that is very rare to see. And we'll see if FlyQuest can keep on cooking with these drafts here. Nunu not going to get banned. Cassio ban was dropped. So instead, they're actually banning out the Kalista that Maso has been performing very well on.
I think that the things that have stood out to me is Hanwha Life's Barons. They've been forcing them. FlyQuest have been responding well,
yes.
Right? Now, I wonder if HLE is going to put a higher priority on the Smolder. Because in the previous game, they early picked Zyra, then they picked Ezreal, but then they allowed that pool to be pinched in mid, forcing him into, he didn't want to go Trist, so he went for the Yasuo instead, which resulted in them having a bit of a disjointed comp, where if they'd had a Smolder, I think that comp would have made a little bit more sense. This time though, I'm expecting a higher priority on that as the Skarner now locked in for Peanut.
Yeah, Skarner going to be first pick. It'll be really interesting, right? Because as you say, you know, they didn't first round it, and then FlyQuest just banned it, right? So they're obviously pinching that pool. And this is a discussion we just kind of started to have before it came back to us. But, you know, the question about, you know, what is Zeka going to move towards when some of the primary champions that he likes to play are banned out? Obviously, he has really developed as a player and moved away from that reputation of being a melee-only guy. He played AD carries very well in the LCK, but those are not nearly as viable now on this patch as they were before. So if you are just going towards melee-style champions, Yone is the clear S tier, and the question is, are the ones below it, like the Akali and the Yasuo and the Sylas, going to be enough to get you across the finish line?
Okay, so we've got the Renekton banned out by HLE alongside Masu's Kalista, Inspired's Ivern, the Jax and Yone, those two powerful split pushers from game number 1, removed by FlyQuest alongside the general ban of Aurora. FlyQuest, without having the Kalista that they played the previous couple of games, they're going to lock in the Kai'Sa for themselves. They'll lock it in right next to the buy. Two very powerful divers right here at the very start.
This could just be Xayah Rakan, honestly. The Lights Rakan is absolutely insane. I would be pretty terrified, even just after these first 3 picks, if that is going to be the response, because FlyQuest are already showing the pretty heavy commitment to dive. Masu sometimes does go the full AP build, and you can kind of say, all right, you know, just kidding, we're going to play poke, but it is very tough to be able to dive in onto a champion like the Xayah, and if you do go Rakan, that's the Lights' best champion in my opinion. He is incredibly good at it. But it is instead looking like they might go towards a melee pick, and it is going to be a Sylas, so it is going to be another one of these melee-style champions. And I wonder, could we just be getting Quad going back to the Cassio and trying to play one of these abusive matchups into a melee champion?
Okay, so remember, back a couple of years ago, 2022, when Zeka won his world championship, his muscles were being flexed. The left bicep was Sylas, the right was Akali. These were the champions that he earned his name on. And so now with this Sylas, it also makes you respect that champion in terms of the ultimates you're drafting for yourself on FlyQuest's side. But Quad is saying, okay, Cassio's the call.
Yeah, and Cassio, obviously a solid ultimate to steal there, but it's not like these are the best ultimates ever. Killer Instinct, not that useful. Vi is kind of so-so. The Cassio ult is kind of so-so. There's not any of those S tiers for him to take away. So as long as FlyQuest aren't just randomly drafting, you know, Naramumu, these kind of champions that are giving you that really powerful ults, I actually feel like Sylas can struggle in these situations. So Zeka definitely defaulting to comfort, but the question is, does this actually fit well in the context of the draft?
Well, if we're talking about things that fit into the draft, you guys were talking earlier about Xayah Rakan. Rakan, the first ban for FlyQuest. I think that's exactly the right choice. Keep that away from Delight. Keep that duo from the Xayah. And immediately, Hanwha Life paying some respect towards Bwipo's Olaf. Even though they set it behind so massively last game, it still showed up huge.
And I think that was so impressive from Bwipo to be able to battle back and make something happen on that. But I do kind of wonder, you know, why we wouldn't have just gone Rakan on 3 when Sylas has not been prioritized or banned at all in this series. You know, probably could have just gotten that later in the draft. So I do think, you know, it is worth questioning. Why not just go support on 3, get this incredibly powerful duo, and your support is best champ?
Well, the problem is they're going to concede the Ral, and I mean, what do you even bring? Maybe Braum? Maybe Braum?
Yeah, I think they'll go with defensive champion. I think it'll be Braum. I think there's the other possibility is like, I mean, you could go towards Nautilus as well, but I think Nautilus could really struggle in this draft.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, they banned the Leona away themselves.
I think it's Braum or an Enchanter. But we'll see where he wants to go. I mean, you can still go just towards engaged champs and say, you know what, I'm just going to kind of like outplay the Miasma. I'm not going to really have to worry about that. Poppy obviously was pretty effective last time.
It's also
and there is, you know, Rel, Vi, and the ultimate, the Killer Instinct as well from Kai'Sa can all be interrupted. So definitely a lot of playmaking there. Yep. Oh. It's a dash. It's just a very long dash.
Yeah, I mean,
It's very fast, too.
Yep. Yep.
Fair. All right, well, let's see how Hanwha Life ran out their top side with the Jax ban. I think this was also smart from FlyQuest, something that we've just been seeing at Worlds be a popular safe blind top. Maybe the Cassante is the answer, in which case Bwipo will have something
He'll
to
go Garen. He'll go Garen if he goes Cassante, because Cassante, I think, really struggles in that matchup. You know, you go all out, you put yourself low. I think Gnar is way smarter as far as like a safe blind pick that can't just be abused here. The question is, what would Bwipo go towards? When you think of a lot of kind of the standard picks that are considered counters into the Gnar, it's not really the things that are in Bwipo's wheelhouse. If you're like, oh, you're going to go Aurelia or you're going to go Kennen, that's not really what he likes to play. So Sion, I do think makes a lot of sense here. This is just a really beefy champion that can kind of get in the face of the Xayah, of the Sylas, and really make their job difficult. And we'll see what they can get done.
So, important things to take into consideration here. Hanwha Life have taken an approach of comfort, right? Zeka on the Sylas, you already talked about it, Flowers. It was something that we saw very prevalent in his World Championship run. Doran is picking his most played champion throughout his entire career. Like, he has to blind pick something. It's something that is very safe. And also, when you kind of look at their composition as a whole, it's very well-rounded. It's got good skirmishing. It's got solid team fighting. There are decent ultimates you can steal, disengage. It's good against the anti-dive. Oh, sorry, it's good against the dive that's coming through from FlyQuest. So kind of like, it's very broad and covers many aspects, even if it doesn't necessarily excel in one specific way.
But you know what? The more I look at these drafts, I actually think FlyQuest draft is enormously better. I don't even think you have to play dive. I think you can play for counter engage. Right. You have 4 of these melee champions into a Cassio here with the potential counter engage from the Rel, with the Sion that's just kind of creating space and making it so the Xayah can't really easily follow up. I actually think FlyQuest have a very heavily winning draft here. Of course, HLE could just out-execute, you know, find these multi-man flanks, but I think FlyQuest have done a very good job.
Well, this was going to be my follow-up point in that I think FlyQuest have gained an appreciation for how the series has been playing out. And the biggest value I see of Bwipo is that he is getting camped by Peanuts. That has been happening both games now.
Not wrong.
And he has not really been in a position to get proper support from Inspired. And one of the best ways to deal with that is, okay, kill me, I'm still going to farm. Right? Sion is such an effective lane swap champion. This screams to me that FlyQuest is once again gonna look for a lane swap in the early laning phase, and they're gonna try and leverage the fact that Bwipo can soak this up, will have value later into the game, and they're gonna trust in Masu and Quad to be the carries and step up in this game.
And even if they don't go for the lane swap, this is just absolute comfort for Bwipo. He has not been playing it a lot this split in the LCS, but if you've been watching his stream, watching his champions queue, he's been spamming a lot of Sion. He loves going these more kind of bruiser aggressive builds with things like Sterix and sometimes even Titanic he'll go towards. We also saw him play it in their first game of Worlds against GAM, where he dominated. He was, you know, very, very effective in that one.
And if you guys are talking about, you know, if you're this FlyQuest comp, you don't have to play the dive, you can play for counter engage. Sion, I feel like, can be a very effective champion at that, because not only are you the brick wall, but once they finally punch through you, they have to disengage again just to get away from the dead body because it's so powerful.
Exactly. I mean, it's really tough, right? Because when you're looking at the comp, you know, damage profile-wise, you know, from HLE, it's really just kind of this 2-threat comp. It is about Zeka and Viper. And sure, even if Zeka gets in the backline, that's great. But if Viper can't access because the Sion is standing in between you and the rest of the team, it becomes very, very difficult. And you called it, Vedi, it is going to be the lane swap here.
So the thing that I'm really curious about here, and I'm sure something a lot of viewers are also wondering, HLE has been playing a lot more fast and loose, a lot more disrespectfully than I think people would generally expect them to play. Does the fact that you have now completely lost a game and you are on match point against FlyQuest cause their thought process and their decision making to change drastically?
I mean, I'm of the opinion that they aren't really playing, you know, super disrespectfully. I think that it's just more playing the style of champions that they're playing, right? When you play Yasuo and stuff, you have to play very aggressively. You have to play in your opponent's face. And generally speaking, if you look at the expectations for the series, it would just be that they'd pick these mechanical picks and they would just heavily outplay FlyQuest and dominate you in the 5v5. So I feel like they're going to play the similar way to what they've been playing.
I agree with the sentiment that FlyQuest, if given enough time, have drafted today in a way to outscale HLE, right? I think the reason why Hanwha Life has kept it as close as they have in many of these games is because of how excellent they are at team fighting. I think the way in which they were able to overcome Gen.G was they're truly phenomenal team fighting. We only have to look back at their series against Gen.G just here at Worlds to think back to the Delight engage, right? And the way they navigate. Like, you looked at Viper, and like, they have so many talented individuals that really understand the limits and what they're supposed to do in a fight that they become terrifying that even at a deficit, they can find ways to outplay, but the reality is that at a certain point, comps just beat talent, and FlyQuest are consistently drafting in a way that allows them to have that advantage in the late game. And Azael is talking about how he has confidence in their late game prowess. I completely understand where he's coming from. Ultimately, it comes down to whether or not they can get through this laning phase and get to those late game fights, and how HLE will play around the bound.
Delight in some trouble here, though. He's level 1, Busio level 2. Masu with the flash over the wall to chase after Delight.
Late,
Once
though.
the last auto attack doesn't find it, Masu just a little bit late there with the summoner follow. But Inspired showing up down here in the bottom lane. Whippo's down to 200 HP. Oh, the attempted flash after the Vault Breaker to connect on Viper. So HLE coming out on top in 2 different flash-for-flash trades.
Yeah, nice attempt there. He has to predict, right? You can't obviously always be able to respond there. Viper flashed very late, which means he just has to guess where he's going to flash to. Throws that flash out to try to redirect, can't quite get it. Masu, definitely a bit more of an unforced error there. Thought he could be able to get back in range to get a Q off, but couldn't quite do it. You know, had Delight incredibly low, would have loved to grab that first blood, but at the end of the day, not able to do so. It is just trade of flashes, though, so not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, you can... I would say that FlyQuest feel very comfortable on stage now, you know? Like, in Game 2, I could see moments where they were being, like, really respectful to HLE. They weren't overstepping their bounds in the late game fights. But here at the start of this game, you can feel they're warmed up, and the fact that Masu and Busio sit there and go, no, we can flash for this, we can go for this kill, we can... You can see now that, like, I feel like they're playing with the weights off, and they're riding that momentum off the victory of the previous game.
And one advantage that we haven't really touched on yet, though, was Peanut being able to actually cross-map and steal away some of these camps. He started on his Wolves and then was able to cross-map, take away the blue and the Gromp there from Inspired. So Inspired really had no job. He had nothing to do on the map, so that's why he looks for this early gank down towards bot lane to try to actually punish Viper. So at the very least, he was able to trade flash for flash there, but you can see he is down quite a few camps, you know, has been put behind by Peanut's pathing, and his early game has been excellent in all 3 games. Peanut really being a difference maker for HLE so far.
Whippo just continuing to farm down here in the bottom lane with that Scion. Just wants to make sure he's stacking up as much extra health as possible with the Soul Furnace. It's something that you got to keep in mind, too. The ability for this champion to generate so much free stats with the health stacking can turn him into an absolutely unassailable wall if they can scale to that point that we're already talking about. As Doran has to hop away, Busio again threatening that Gnar, making him back up, making him play respectfully. Still a slight gold lead for HLE here in the early game. Quad continuing to farm up, has not been pressured on this Cassiopeia in the early game like he was in game number 1.
So we're off to a slow and steady early game. No major advantages gained on either side. And interestingly, it was FlyQuest that kind of maintained the swap for the longest time. They've still got their bot lane on the top side, but now Hanwha Life, knowing that the Grubs are spawning, have swapped their bot up towards top. You have to be careful playing against Desire this early on. Those feathers pack a serious punch. And so I wonder if FlyQuest is going to respect that and instead prioritize the Dragon. Keeping my eyes, it looks like Inspired is heading towards the bot side of the map.
And honestly, for FlyQuest, trading is the right choice. If your gold is even, you're winning this game. You heavily outscale, I think, in the 5v5, and I don't think there's massive side lane threats unless Zeka or Doran gets super fed. So for FlyQuest, you don't need to risk going into a dicey fight. You don't need to go for a 50-50 fight. Just play cross-map and trade objectives.
Exactly. That's what they're doing right here. They know that Hanwha Life is more interested in the Grubs. They will concede that entire trio, but instead Inspired immediately ready to jump into the Drake pit, claim that first Drake, Hex Tech Drake, so it means there won't be that super valuable Hex Tech Soul, but Zeka now has to retreat away from Quad back here in the mid lane. No ultimate expended for either champion, but Zeka does lose out on the HP trade as Peanut is again working his way into the FlyQuest jungle, steal away this buff from Inspired, steal away these camps, make it harder for Inspired to find something to do.
Great play from Peanut, just good awareness, knowing that the Dragon indicator showing where Inspired is on the map, and a stacked wave means that this FlyQuest duo can't contest the red buff, means it's an easy steal for him.
And Peanut did just hit 6 there as well, so Inspired will come up, be able to clear his Krugs, but then he's going to get the bad news. At least they do have a ward spotting him in Tribrush, so they know he's around, and if Peanut were to look for any sort of a dive, Inspired is close enough to respond. So I don't think HLE will go for anything. Again, Peanut just taking this slight advantage. Is going to be ahead from that early game. Obviously gets more experience as well from the Grubs and is pretty happy with how things are going. But Whippo definitely in his comfort zone here. If Doran is not ahead on the Gnar, it is very hard to pressure Scion.
Yep.
You know, you get enough levels, you get enough armor, and all of a sudden you just kind of become this brick wall that is so frustrating to deal with.
Yeah, he's chilling. He's got a wave, massive wave, piled up towards him. HLE clearly trying to leverage the fact that their 2v2 is winning, and Xayah is so much stronger in the early game skirmishes. So Masu going to fall a little bit behind in terms of farm. You can see that gold discrepancy slowly starting to build. Overall, though, FlyQuest.
Gage, Busio, Shattering Strike into the crash down, but Peanut is here. He's got the Impale, and this is surely first blood for HLE, and they're putting it on the dude who wants it most. Viper's getting paid.
And Peanut again finding these plays up towards the top side, this time getting Viper paid, who had such a strong game last game on the Ezreal. Was almost 1v9 in that situation. He did something like 45,000 damage, 1,200 DPM. You know, was really the big hope for HLE in that last one, where FlyQuest could get to a lot of the other carries and burst them down, but they couldn't really get to Viper. And he was doing such a good job in these skirmishes, in these fights. And again, now on the Xayah, set up for success here. Getting that early kill creates another solid advantage for HLE.
They've now actually swapped the lanes back. They've moved Busio into mids to help Quad get this push out, and Marcio's going to go and catch the remnants of the wave in bot lane.
Zeka just firing off the Stolen Petrifying Gaze there. Always the thing with Sylas, sometimes you just have to throw the ulti out there because the timer's running out, as Bwipo back up in the top side, gonna mine some plate money.
But look at that Essence Reaver, finished for Viper, 9 minutes into the game. Like, this Xayah is strong. And the thing about Ezreal is you can be self-sufficient, which is where I think Viper really thrives. But on top of that, Xayah is the same, right? You're not afraid of this dive. If the Vi comes onto you, you're just making it even easier for the Xayah to play. And so, yeah, I think that HLE find themselves in a very good position. A 1k gold lead, largely sitting on top of Viper. The objectives are equally traded. The Grub's going to be spawning in about a minute 10. Inspired, making his way into the bot lane.
Inspired with that ulti, ready to use it, but no target. HLE not going to overplay their hand here. They've got the ward inside that middle brush in this bottom lane, and it looks like Inspired gonna... Nope, just chilling still.
Yeah, we'll see how long they want to wait for this. You can see Peanut again heading out towards top. He's just trying to be very efficient with his time. And they do cancel recall one more time. Bwipo could be in some danger. They're going to look for a wraparound.
Yeah, remember that Bwipo does have the ability to use the ulti to try to get away, but they stand right in front of him, exactly the way you want to outplay the Sion ulti. Meanwhile, down in the bottom lane, Busio and Inspire trying to make the play here on Delight, but a beautiful amount of damage from Viper there with a Feather Call. Now he tries to get a little bit more, and Viper outplays him and slays him down here in the bottom lane. HLE's AD carry does not want to lose this series.
Viper is absolutely popping off. They go for a play onto the bot lane 2 versus 2. But you got to remember, this Essence Reaver gives Viper so much damage. The feathers truly did fly, and they sowed destruction for FlyQuest.
Yeah, and Delight just played that so well. The CC on Masu right as he tried to fly in, really punishing. Now HLE going to be able to take 6 grubs. This is a very commanding position for them.
And crucially, it's a situation where both junglers are making plays on opposite sides of the map. On HLE's side, it succeeds. It gets them kills, it gets them plates, it gets them grubs. On the bot side, it fails. And on top of that, Viper is the one to benefit from the kills.
Yeah, exactly. And to make matters worse, they spent so much time in this brush waiting for this play here, and they have to give up the wave on the tower. Masu has to run away from it here, and watch as the ulti comes in from Delight right as he goes in. He's insta-CC'd. The feather pull is there across all 3 members from Viper. The timing on the ulti was perfect from Delight, and even though it's a good flash from Viper to avoid the redirect on the ulti, it just doesn't really matter.
Delight and Viper couldn't have played that better, right? You're in a 2v3, you come out on top, the knock up into the 3-man Blade Caller is just ideal for Hanwha Life. Now up almost 3,000 gold, 12 minutes into the game, plus 6 grubs. Insane start for them.
And to add insult to injury, the kill went over to Busio. So it doesn't even go on to either Inspired or Masu, which just makes things even harder for them as Viper sets his sights on that tower. The plates haven't even finished yet. We're not 14 minutes in. But HLE can just continue to play around the strength of their bottom lane right now, move them around the map. I say that typically you'd expect them to be pushing bot so they could secure the Drake, but they're going to move Zeka off to bot. Doran's going to catch mid, and they're going to get themselves their first dragon of the game.
But we'll see what FlyQuest can do from here, because obviously they were down 3,000 gold, you know, this early or even earlier last game.
They've been down every game.
And, you know, so it's a less significant disadvantage than they were in last game. I still feel like their spot is okay. But obviously, if HLE can get that big fight to really kind of throw it over the line, that's going to be the problem. But I mean, Quad is in a good spot. Whippo's still in a good spot. The real problem here is Masu has been put quite far down, and that hasn't really happened thus far this series.
Yeah, the biggest advantage on the Rift right now, you can see it on the scoreboard at the bottom, plus 1.6 thousand gold roll for roll for Viper. First items coming online across the board, really. Rod of Ages again for the Cassiopeia. Peanut wanting to make a gank up here into the top lane, but this time Whippo can use that ultimate to get himself away in time. The Impale interrupts his decimating smash. They're looking for a little bit more damage onto him here. Viper free firing pretty hard onto the Scion, but Whippo again just knocking him back up into the air. Blade Caller takes him low, but it won't take him down. As Hanwha Life still just trying to get this wave pushed up. They would love to be able to knock down the last little bit of this turret. Whippo barely hanging on, almost no HP left. Meanwhile, down in the bottom lane, another fight's going to be breaking out as Zeka and Delight try to stay in a fight, but Whippo's going to be killed underneath the tier 1 turret at the top lane at the same time. A little bit more damage onto Zeka. Ain't going to do it here just yet. Inspired critically low. Zeka still fighting. A slam back at the wall. Inspired is alive, and Zeka's down.
I think that's a kill across the board from both sides. The problem is that Viper's getting a tower as well. Peanut is continuing to invest resources into making sure that Viper is being snowballed. But FlyQuest are doing the smart thing. They're cross-mapping. They're moving into an area of the map that should belong to them, and HLE is fighting them for it. Zeka overstays his welcome, and he ends up giving over a kill.
3,500 gold lead for HLE as the turret plates fall, and the numbers popped up on your screen there. It was 7 plates to just the single plate over there for FlyQuest. It's plus 750 of that 3.5k just in the plates from the lane control that HLE has asserted.
And even with the kill on Masu, Viper has a 2,000 gold advantage here. He got all of that plate gold, got the first tower gold on top side, got the kill on Whippo as well. Whippo is obviously just trying to delay while they look for a cross-map play, trying to soak pressure from those two members. But this lane economy snapshot powered by MasterCard showcases the enormous hill that they will have to climb now that this advantage has really gotten out of control for Viper.
I will say, though, that Quad, I think, is still in a good position. He can match into Zeka very comfortably right now, especially with all the mana he's now been able to stockpile. It makes it that much harder for Zeka to play in the side lane. But you are right in that the big scary point is Viper.
Yeah.
But the good news is that if you take out Viper, the scary point disappears.
Ah.
Now, I'm not saying it's easy to take out Viper.
Pretty difficult, actually.
Yeah, in fact, his whole toolkit is designed for
Maybe
being
down 10k, but the good point is if you kill their Nexus, the lead doesn't matter.
I mean, but you've got to remember, in these team fights, this is where I give FlyQuest a lot of credit, is that they are very good at finding that target, the target that they need. And while, no, they don't have an Amumu. No, they don't have the Nunu. I'm noticing a trend. But it is going to be harder this time around because Viper's on a champion that is about that self-sufficiency. It welcomes the dive. It wants to be able to find those outplays. In the event that they're able to shut down Viper, then FlyQuest have the tools to turn those fights.
Well, it's really interesting because I don't know that they do have the tools to actually kill off Viper, you know, early on in the fight, unless he really misplays. But I do think they have the ability to still potentially absorb and engage and have someone like Whippo just kind of zoning Viper out, giving his life and having the team win on the other side. So I think that's going to be what they're looking for. But the problem is HLE is doing such a good job of extending the gold lead.
Yeah.
You know, it really stalled out in those other games. You know, last game it was about a 3k gold lead around 10 minutes, which was massive, but it really stalled from there. And now this is nearly a 5,000 gold lead here.
Nicely maneuvered there with the Herald from Zeka to drive it from the bottom lane into the mid lane. The previous 2 games, we have seen the Herald crash into the wall, not quite get the value you were hoping for with that lane-to-lane drift. This time around, Zeka's got his driver's license. He's making sure that Herald hits exactly on the mark. But it is the biggest gold lead we've seen in this early, slowly transitioning into mid-game point in the series so far, with a 4.5, nearly 5,000 gold lead for HLE and 30 seconds until the 3rd Drake of the game spawns.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how quickly this game is snowballing out of control. FlyQuest, it's true that so far in this series they haven't been able to find much footing in the early game, but as you rightly said, Azael, the deficit wasn't that bad, but just like that off the back of the Herald, they're ballooning it so rapidly with a lot of the gold advantage sitting on Peanut and Viper, who really have been the stars of the series when we think about the entire best of 3.
Yeah, I think Doran was very big in game 1 on the Jax as well. You know, I think Peanut for sure, to me, is by far the standout player for HLE thus far this series. His early game has been so strong. He's been pathing well, and we're going to see another tower die here as HLE just step forward, threaten it, and continue to build that gold lead here. Now just a hair under 5,000 at this point. But we're going to be trying to push up on that top side as Quad farms on bot. FlyQuest has no intention, obviously, of fighting for this dragon. Again, just trying to play for that cross map, see if they can get some gold back.
Yeah, the name of the game for FlyQuest is stall, 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 because HLE is so far in control of this game. You can see the inventory of Quad. The Rod of Ages stacked up to 6. He's got about 2/3 of the stacks on the tier as well, so around the time that he completes that Archangel staff, it should be nearly ready to immediately evolve as Bwipo is once again in a compromised position. He flashes away so he can use the ulti to continue escaping and avoid another death.
Fortunately for Bwipo, his base was interrupted there by Delight, who was able to find, well, he was able to find Bwipo and be annoying. It's the TLDR. They get the flash out, and so that's a nice win. The Dragon was also secured there in favor of HLE. And Marsu now being sent bot lane to catch that wave. Ultimately, it's just a map game once again for HLE. They're not really trying to overforce any fights. They're just leveraging the pressure that they have to kind of split FlyQuest apart and slowly but surely kind of dissect them of their resources, suffocate them with jungle farm, deny them any vision, and look for these type of picks.
So what I'm kind of looking at right now is this sort of 9-minute timer on FlyQuest for the Dragon Soul. That's the point where you're really going to start to feel this, okay, we can't really stall anymore type of moment. Since they got that first Drake, luckily it's not super soon. But you're looking at about, what, 28 minutes on the clock, and that's about how long FlyQuest is going to have to scale. You can see that Archangel staff that I talked about is now fully completed, so the stacking towards the Seraphs is going to be that much further accelerated for Quad. Still only one item on Inspired, not feeling super strong on that Vi. As soon as he presses R, it's pretty much a guaranteed one-way ticket. 2 items completed now on Masu with the Kaisa, though. Really wants to hit 3 to feel like he's got some good firepower.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always this difficult situation when you are a 2-threat comp like FlyQuest have, is that HLE can just full send it on the one strong member potentially, and if you don't have that secondary carry to really kind of punish, that can be very problematic, and that's the situation that I think FlyQuest are finding themselves in a little bit now. Masu does have 2 items though, so he's not in a horrible spot, but you know, we'll see if HLE can continue to push the pace here. Still maintaining just about that 5,000 gold lead, but now the Baron is here. This is really on the precipice for FlyQuest. If they can hold on, win a team fight, you know, they can pull it back, but one good team fight from HLE and this game is probably going to get out of reach.
I mean, the good news for FlyQuest is this first Baron so far has been the turning point. So all you're relying on is HLE to force the objective. And for what it's worth, I don't think HLE's Barons have ever been like a wrong decision. I genuinely think that FlyQuest have just been outplaying HLE when it comes to the Baron setup. Perhaps you could question the one of like doing a Baron in the face of a Nunu. That one probably was a little bit more questionable. But ultimately, FlyQuest have been better at punishing the Baron setups and starting. So we'll see if FlyQuest can do the same thing here in Game 3.
Well, if we want to talk about good things for HLE, let's talk about Viper, plus over 2,000 gold, Essence Reaver, plus Navori Quick Blades, both already completed. You can see also building towards the complete evolution of the Last Whisper as well. He's almost on 3-item power spike. This Xayah is an absolute monster.
You can see Bwipo trying to answer that as Delight will be forced to flash there.
Bit of an ambitious ward he was going for there, I will admit.
Inspired looking for a collapse. They may try to see if they can get something more, but not going to fully commit to the play. Yeah, Bwipo obviously is just going to be fully stacking armor. I really see his job as basically walking at Viper and trying to make Viper hit only you while your team plays a 4v4. And we'll see if he's going to be able to actually get into a good position to really try to accomplish that, because you know, Zeka versus Quad, that's pretty even, and we'll see if they can find any sort of play here.
Yeah, because the argument that you're proposing, right, is into a Cassio, front to back is great, right? She's just going to melt any front line that comes into her. And so when you have Rel plus Sion, you don't have to, this is what Azale was saying in draft, right? You don't have to overforce this dive, especially into someone like a Xayah. Instead, you save those ultimates for later on into the fight, where maybe you can catch a straggler who's off guard, maybe you can burn a flash and then use that on that target. There are options the FlyQuest have to approach the fight.
And that's always the risk when you play a 4-melee comp, is that you just naturally stack up, right? As you're trying to target someone, and then that can mean form in, you know, Cassio ult or a Rel combo. And in some of these situations, it'll be interesting to see how Inspired plays it, but like I don't know how successful it's going to be throwing that ult on
Here we
Desire.
go.
We have HLE on Baron.
Yeah, HLE's starting this one up. They know how powerful their carry is. Now with Immortal Reminder fully completed. Down there in the bottom lane, Whippo having to back away from Doran at the same time. HLE unchallenged in the Baron so far, but now FlyQuest trying to step up.
No
Delight here
flash.
at the very front. They try to jump in. Inspired wants to go after the Poppy, but it ain't going to matter a whole lot. Quad's going to get caught. Nice Feather Collar, but it doesn't matter. Viper's already down. Whippo teleports into the fight, but so does Doran. It's a 2 for 2 so far. Peanut trying to get away. Masu needs to buy a little bit of time. Busio here in the front line, but it ain't going to matter. Masu now in trouble. Meganar misses. Sidestep comes out, but the Proto Belt is still there. It's a 1v3, and Masu's done for. That's a nice fight for HLE. Yeah, they lost their Fed guy, but it took way too much from FlyQuest, and the remaining 3 men from Hanwha Life go right back to the Baron.
FlyQuest successfully shut down Viper, but they had to commit absolutely everything to do it. With Zeka still alive, they were able to turn the fight onto Quad, and as Azel has been saying, when you have this 2 damage threat composition, if you lose one of those sources, your damage is cut in half. A promising start to the fight in favor of FlyQuest, but HLE close it out.
Yeah, and they can even delay the Baron take there, so they got Baron buff on all 5 members. Some slight mispositions, some slight misplays there from FlyQuest, I do think made that fight a lot harder for themselves. Inspired gave Delight a way to E out. Delight had no flash from the earlier play. Watch as Inspired gets behind him. It gives Delight a way to actually get out of the fight. Had he not done that, it could have been a very different look. Then Quad flashes in. They all try to go for this play here. They do get Viper, but Quad is CC'd 100-0 by the stolen Vial, and then Peanut CC in on the back line. And Busio and Whippo just can't buy enough space here for Masu. As soon as Doran is going to mega out, they know there's no shot at winning this fight. Just these slight differences really meant a lot here for FlyQuest.
Yeah, the idea as well from, I mean, when Quad flashes in with the W and he connects it onto both Viper and Delight, you're like, oh nice, now they can't do anything, but that's the beauty of the Xayah ulti. You can just throw that up and you're completely safe in that situation while making that dive so much harder.
FlyQuest now in a really tough spot. They're down over 8,000 gold, and HLE wants to end this game fast. They do not want to allow FlyQuest to try to scale to a point where they can come back into this game. Doran's going to be split pushing over in mid lane, while the remaining 4 players on HLE put the pressure on the tier 3 turret bottom. They've still got this Baron for another minute and a half, and they are going to suffocate FlyQuest out of the rift.
2 towers fall. They put themselves at Soul Point. They steal away all the jungle camps. 8.7k is the goal difference between them and Hanwha Life. They recognize the failures of their previous Barons, and instead they use this one to turn and fight. And while the start of the fight did look a little scary for them, they're ultimately able to out-execute. And now they can play the map with confidence, knowing that they are the ones with full wallets as they set their sights on FlyQuest base.
And this lead now, you really are depending upon mistakes from HLE. It kind of is a game that becomes a little bit out of FlyQuest's hands when you are down, over 8,000 gold, when you have your opponents at Soul Point, when you have your opponents with that Baron buff. So FlyQuest gonna have to wait for mistakes and see if they can find an opportunity.
Zeka's the target, but he uses the stasis to get away from the Vi ultimate. Magnet Storm followed by the Killer Instinct from Masu. A pick for FlyQuest on the HLE mid laner, but at the cost of so many resources. Whippo now trying to defend underneath the tier 2 turret here in the top lane, but the rest of FlyQuest is coming to collapse. Inspired has gone over the wall, coming up behind Delight. Whippo surely going to be killed here, but remember that he comes back to life. FlyQuest still trying to keep the fight going. Busio goes over the wall. Delight's going to be your target here with a Shattering Strike coming out, but a little bit more damage is still going to be required. Busio grabbing the kill on that one. Petrifying Gaze onto Peanut. Viper and Dawn still trying to fight, but a massive impale from Peanut to turn it right back around. That might just be the game from the Hanwha Life jungler.
Quad is forced to retreat as Hanwha Life find a massive fight. Viper and Peanut do it once again. The 3-man ultimate into the feathers mean that the inhibitor will fall and HLE set their sights on the Nexus.
HLE on the victory march. FlyQuest did everything they could to try to stop it. They pushed HLE to a game 3, but you don't become #1 in the LCK for nothing. They're on to the Nexus turrets, and they want to end the game and end the series here. Doran down to about 1/3 HP as Zeka has to retreat now as well. Peanut trying to get away back through the bottom lane. He cruises through the wall. HLE heading back away. Peanut gonna try to execute to the turret. The shield to buy a little bit of extra time, but it still doesn't matter. Busio will get the kill credit. FlyQuest hang on ever so barely.
Yeah, by the skin of their teeth, FlyQuest do hang on. I love the attempt at that play after the pick onto Zeka, and honestly, if it wasn't for that buffered ulti there from Peanut, I think FlyQuest win that fight. They were in a great situation. They land the Petrifying Gaze stun onto Peanut, but that ulti, the buffer there, really changed the whole game. Because Whippo obviously is getting taken down, but FlyQuest, no, this is our chance. This is a 5v4. If we can ace them here, we can make something happen. Delight is sectioned out and really goes down pretty much for free. Whippo buys a lot of time. Quad is poking around on the side. Doran has no Mega, but it all comes down to this ultimate. From this spot, this is a very winnable fight here. No Mega on Doran, the stun lands, but this ulti comes out right before he gets stunned from the Vi Q, buffers it perfectly in time, the Blade Caller is there, and it is absolute cinema from the HLE side. The FlyQuest coaching staff knew that was their moment to try to come back.
You could not have a bigger, badder, better Skarner ult than what Peanut just did to guarantee the victory in a fight that otherwise looked doomed for HLE. Now, Dragon Soul spawning in a little bit over 30 seconds. Baron spawning in a little bit under 1 minute. FlyQuest backs are against the wall. The slightest, smallest mistake is the end of the game and the end of the series as HLE take to the rift once again, ready to force FlyQuest back.
And look at top lane. All they have to do is just delay. FlyQuest have no TPs to be able to answer here, but if they base, they give up soul. So HLE just needs to just keep them here and buy time for the supers.
Super minions continuing their march. You can see a recall from Masu, but he cancels it. Quad has teleport, but not yet. It's still got a little bit of that cooldown left on it. No teleports available for either one of the players on HLE either. And it looks like FlyQuest is just saying, give it. Don't bother fighting for this. It's not going to work out. Free Chemtech Soul for HLE.
And I think this is the right call here from FlyQuest. I think you're almost guaranteed to lose from that spot. And honestly, one dragon doesn't get you back into the game, even if you're able to steal it. So, you know, having a hope at maybe an Elder Flip or something like that when you're this monumentally behind is actually a better shot. You know, you look for a 50-50 at an Elder, you look for a 50-50 at a Baron. That's the kind of objective that might be able to get you back into it. But that being said, you're still down 10,000 gold, and there's a soul on top of it. It is a nearly impossible game for FlyQuest to play.
It certainly is, and they're not going to be given any opportunity to steal this one away. The vision has been denied. Delight is hovering on the outside of the pit. There's Doran acting as bodyguard as well. And that's going to be a Baron secured for Hanwha Life.
Zeka even stealing away the Vi ultimate, so in case anybody from FlyQuest tries to stop it, he can immediately jump in to punish. Doran jumps in, wants to go for the Mega Gnar, but he doesn't find a whole lot of success with it. Zeka versus Inspired off to the side as FlyQuest try to hold the line. Miasma to stop HLE from stepping any further forward. Doran at about half HP. Whippo doing the same. Over the wall goes Zeka. He's into the back line, but he uses the stasis. Magnet Storm from Busio looking to keep everybody locked up, but Viper is already unstoppable and FlyQuest is crumbling. A little bit more damage from Doran might get it done, but Quad kills Delight. FlyQuest scrambling, but it will not matter. HLE will not be denied. The LCK's #1 seed will earn their win, earn their ticket to the quarterfinals. 19-8, 30 minutes in, they'll take the series.
And what a heroic performance by Peanut. He was crushing it in this series. The early games from Peanut, absolutely incredible. And really the lone shot of a comeback for FlyQuest in this one, absolutely denied by an incredible Skarner ult. Really showcasing his class in this one.
Beautifully done by HLE. FlyQuest pushed him, but HLE was ready to answer. Desk, what do you think?
We think that it is a magnificent game plan from HLE in that last one. They said game 3, yeah, we're gonna wake up. But I can't, and they are a deserved quarterfinalist, absolutely right. But you keep on thinking to what could have been if FlyQuest won that game 1. But that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes.